Hi everyone, it's Naomi again, and so for this week, I believe we're supposed to be talking about where we're from or what city we're currently in. So I'm actually from San Francisco, California. Yes, it is a 3-hour time zone difference, so it does make it a little weird sometimes when I do talk to my relatives back at home, since I always think they're at the same time as us, and then I message them and I'm like, why aren't they getting back to me? And I realized, like, oh, the 3-hour time zone difference. So that's always a big confusion for me. But in San Francisco, everyone knows about the Golden Gate Bridge. Very iconic. I know almost everyone that goes to California and visits San Francisco, the first thing they do is go to the Golden Gate Bridge and take their photos. I've actually never taken a photo at the Golden Gate Bridge, even though I've lived there for about 6 years in San Francisco. Prior to that, I lived in Santa Barbara, California. Very beautiful city. It's very small. That's where my mom actually got her PhD at UCSB. And I remember those days where I would just walk 5 minutes to the beach and then just surf all day, every day. It was the best thing ever, especially when I was in high school there for 1 year. As soon as school got out, all the surfers would rush down to the beach and go surf for a couple hours before we actually did any homework. And prior to that, when I was very, very young, I used to live in Los Angeles. I don't remember too much of it, but yeah, I used to live there other than that. And that's where I have most of my family currently. Right now, my parents currently live in North Dakota. Why North Dakota? Well, my dad's a petroleum engineer and corrosion engineer, and he works on the pipelines. And so I was in quarantine last year moving and helping my family get to North Dakota, and it is so flat, it is so boring. Like, the amount of heavy metals in the water is not great from all the oil that gets pumped. And when I moved out there, I was like, well, why are there military bases out here? And like, when I drive between the two big city, which is Bismarck and Minot, so Minot's where we live, I would always see like these fences in the field randomly, and I would always ask my mom, like, what are those doing out there? And she's like, oh yeah, that's where the military stores their nuclear missiles and everything. And I'm like, well, that's very nice to know, knowing that we live in a very somewhat militarized state. And I really, really thought there was nothing in North Dakota besides farmland, cows, and oil. Little did I know there is a lot of military operations that happens there, which is kind of cool, I guess, but there's really not much there unless you play in the somewhat radioactive water, if you think that's fun. And as a sailor, it's very difficult for me to be there because the closest sailing facility is in Minnesota, and that's a large drive to make. So that's why I'm also currently staying in Florida, because it's a lot warmer. I can do a lot more. I'm here on campus, makes everything a lot more easy for me. And I don't have to be stuck in the middle of nowhere with poor connection, because I remember doing research for Berezovsky, and I was just like, I have really poor connection and it really sucks out there. Even though it's a 1-hour time zone difference, it messes a lot of things up. Like, I missed quite a amount of meetings and with other clubs and things like that for my university. So I'm all over the place usually 90% of the time. I lived in many places. I didn't even mention that I lived in Portland, Oregon for a while. Was also in Seattle for a bit, just because Oregon is right there. So I've spent a lot of time there. Yeah, other than that, I've lived a lot of places. I think my favorite so far was probably Santa Barbara, California, just because big surfing community. I surfed a lot. Now that I'm part of the sailing team, I don't get to surf as much, but I do miss it. And let me tell you, West Coast waves are far different from East Coast waves. So if you ever see a surfer thinking they're going to catch a wave, they're most likely a West Coast surfer, because we're kind of lazy and usually the ocean gives us our waves for free. So other than that, that's my short little update, and I hope to see yours.